Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Ashok, and today in this video we are going to discuss very important topic, ANN. So ANN stands for artificial neural network, and it is a type of a machine learning model basically which is inspired by the structure and function of our human brain. So without wasting much time, let's get into it and understand what is ANN and how ANN works. I have typically drawn a human brain here, and let's see what all components it has, right? So this is basically dendrites, and this is nucleus, this is axon, and these are axon terminals, right? And typically this is called as a cell body. So this ANN is also mimicking this human brain, right? Let's see how it is. So you can have this input, right? So suppose this is x1, this is x2, and this is x3. So these are dendrites, right, typically. And inside this neuron, this is called as neuron, and inside this neuron there are two functions basically. One is the summation functions. We'll understand what is this in the coming video, but right now let's understand typically what ANN is, right? So this is the summation function, and there is one activation function, right? There are two steps happens in the neuron. So and then you have outputs, right? So this is output, and these are the output 1, output 2, output 3, right? So these are typically the axon terminals, and this is the axon output, and this is basically the cell body from the human brain, and these two functions typically act as the nucleus. So ANN is also mimicking this human brain, right? So we saw like what all components are there in human brains, and similarly, so same components visualize, or you can say you can typically visualize in the ANN also, right? So this is ANN, artificial neural network. So this human brain is a complex structure or complex network of interconnected neurons, right? And basically these neurons will help us to transmit this electrical signals, which will help us to learn and also process the information. So how our human brain works with interconnected neurons, right? Or the dendrites and neurons, axon terminals and all, right? Similar structure, similar connections will be followed by the ANN. So ANN typically mimics our human brain. Like you can see here the input layers, right? These are the input layers, and inputs are connected to these particular neuron. So here I'm talking about one neuron, right? There might be hundreds of neurons, right? So those neurons will be interconnected, and they will pass the signals to each of the neurons, and then you'll get the output, and these are the output from the your neurons, right? Similarly, how you work with human brains, right? So now let's understand ANN, artificial neural network. So let's take two neurons, or you can say these are the inputs, x1, x2, and here I'll take hidden layers, right? And let me take another hidden layer, and let's take the output, right? So each of these inputs, right, will be connected to the different neurons. Okay, so similarly this will be connected to this will be connected to this neuron, and this. Similarly all the three connections will be connecting parallelly, and this will be the connection to the output layer, right? And these are the inputs, and there will be weights associated in each of the layers, right? And this is typically the output, or typically you can say predictions, which is nothing but y hat, and this is your actual y value, target value, right? So this is y, and this is y hat, this which is predictions, and you will get a loss function here, right? Just to see like there is a difference between y and y predicted, right? So you get the loss function, and this layer will be a forward propagation, and this layer here will be a backward propagation, right? And there is something called as optimizers. We'll understand these optimizers, these are very much important, and inside this you will have something called as activation functions. So what typically happens in ANN is you have these inputs, right? So these input will be passed to this particular neurons, and each of the layers, right, you will be weight associated with those particular neurons, right? And then these are the hidden layer 1, and this is hidden layer 2. There might be multiple hidden layers, but I am taking for example just 2 hidden layers, and this is the output. These are the input and this is the output, and these are the input x1 and x2. Here in this forward propagation, what happens, right? So you just pass the inputs, and then weights will be associated with that, and then all the weights inputs will be passed through the hidden layers, and then it will reach the output. So output, you will get some predictions, right? So in the first epochs, and then there will be actual values, right? So you just calculate the loss function y minus y hat. In the back propagation, what you will do with the help of this optimizers, you will try to update the weights. So update these weights, right? Whatever weights associated with each of the layers. So you'll update these weights in such a way that in the next iteration, next forward propagation, this loss function should reduce. So that is the use of these optimizers, right? So we'll see what are different optimizers and what are different activation functions. We'll dig deeper into those components. So we'll understand about the activation functions. We'll see what all different activation functions are there, and we'll understand about the optimizers as well, right? So if you see activation functions, we'll see such sigmoid activation function, then we'll see tan h activation function, which is also called threshold activation function. Then we'll see ReLU activation function. We have leaky ReLU, we have parametric ReLU. So we'll understand what are different activation functions and what are the problems or issues with each of the activation functions, and then there is a invention of the new activation function. And coming back to the optimizers, we'll have gradient descent, we have stochastic gradient descent, we have mini batch stochastic gradient descent, we'll see SGD with momentum. So this is very much important with the momentum, right? Rate of change of velocity with respect to time. So you'll understand this HGD with momentum. Then you have ADA grad, then ADA delta, and RMS prop, and at the end we'll understand ADAM optimizer. So these are the different optimizers we'll understand going forward, and what are the use of these optimizers we'll see. Because apart from this activation functions, optimizers, we'll also understand something called as weight update formula. So this is very much important in the back propagations. So you will update the weight, right? So there is a formula for weight update in the back propagation. So you'll understand by using the optimizers, and then we'll understand something called as, so what is learning rate and how this plays a very crucial role in the weight update formula, right? So that is very much important. And apart from this, we'll understand the loss function. So we have L1 loss, we have L2 loss, we have hinge loss, we have Huber loss, and we have cross entropy loss. So you'll understand these loss functions as well. So there are different types of ANNs we need to understand based on the specific task or use case, right? So you'll use these ANNs, right? Artificial neural networks. So let's understand different types of artificial neural networks. First one is the feed forward neural network. So here in this feed forward neural network, it is simple. So where the data flows in unidirectional way, one direction, like there will be input, and then there will be a small processing, and then there will be output, right? The second point is on the RNN, recurrent neural networks. Here what happens, like you need to deal with the textual data, right? Text data, and it's kind of a sequential data, and then you use RNN to process those sequential data or the text data. The third one is the convolution neural networks. So basically this architecture, right, convolutional neural network is depending on the images or the video analytics, right? So you do, whenever you have use cases of processing the image data or the video data, right? In that case, you can use convolution neural networks. So we'll understand these types of ANNs going forward, and there are a lot of examples I'll take for the each understanding each of the types of ANNs. Also, not only this, we'll understand different use cases of ANN, where all ANN can be used, where all this feed forward neural network, RNN architectures and CNN architectures are going to be used. We'll see that you'll implement projects also on this going forward. For today, there is a task for you guys. So basically, I want you guys to let me know in the comment section about weight update formula, right? So why do you need to update the weights? So as I told, there is a weight update formula, right? So you guys, your task is to go ahead and research something about the weight update formula. What is the formula for weight update? Okay, put that into the comment section. I'll discuss this into coming videos. Today in this video, you understood like how human brain works, and then how ANN, artificial neural network, basically mimics the human brain. And then we'll understood activation functions, we'll understood optimizers, we understood back propagation, forward propagation, and then what is the weight update formula. So we have not discussed weight update formula, but in the next video I'll discuss the weight update formula. We'll understand something called the loss function. We saw what happens in the forward propagations. You have input, and then you have neurons, and then hidden layers. The data passes through the hidden layer, and then you have activation functions, and then in the back propagation you'll update the weights, right? Okay, that's it from my side for this particular video, guys. So I'll meet you in the next video. Till then, take care, keep learning, and keep rocking.